Hey, Dana, thanks so much for joining me. I'm
Hey,
so
Vicky.
glad to see you.
I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah, as we know, this is episode 17. Are you tired of the same old patterns in your
Oh,
relationship?
I guess I was.
Well, I know you've done a lot of work on yourself and it may not apply as much to you, but I know I still have some patterns in my relationships that I struggle with. Why don't we start with having you introduce yourself and tell us what you do, what you're up to.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for inviting me. I always love spending time with you. Um, so my name is Dana Thomas, but you'll find me on social media outlets as Alexis Mitchell. I am a transformational trainer, coach, and strategist. Um, what I do, I work with individuals and groups. Mostly, I never thought of this in this way, but I work mostly with individuals and groups to inspire people being in service to their highest visions and their best life.
I like that a lot. And I know you do that because I have had that experience of working together with you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Let's start a little bit about patterns in relationships. You know, we all have them, those places where we can almost recite the script. We know what he's going to say. We know what I'm going to say. We know what they're going to say. Uh, what do you think is the underlying issue in those scenarios?
Well, I have them too. I've been married 13 plus years. Um, and it always comes back to I'm treating my husband from an instance in the past instead of this moment. Like when you were saying, the pattern, like, oh, I'm going to say this, he's going to say this, whatever, that actually causes me to actually stop talking because I
Ah,
just kind of assume, right? The underlying assumption, I assume he's going to say this, so I don't really talk to him. And then later on, it's like, hey, what happened? I'm like, well, you've said this 17 times before. Why would I think it was different now? Um, and it's like, it's actually not fair. It's
I
not.
like what you said about that it's treating your husband from an instant of the past.
Mhm.
It's a hard concept to grasp in the beginning. And I read a sentence not too long ago that said, all my experiences are in the past and all my decisions are about the future. So, where does that put being present right in the moment?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for most of my career, I've worked in building teams, and all that is relationship.
Yeah.
And I will say that every single time there's an assumption, every single time it's like, oh, well, you know, my husband in this case, or I'm like, I work, I'm busy. It's also, you know, uh, who I work with in corporations. So playing team with them too.
Right.
And the assumption that I'm making a decision or that I'm proceeding forward because someone said once before, oh, I like this. I like, and not giving them the opportunity because I'm not patient enough to let it marinate for a second. I mean, in the relationship with my husband, we have agreements
Hmm.
about fast acting decisions because sometimes you might not be able to talk to each other. So we have agreements on that.
Right.
But I have to sometimes pause and really ask myself, and I do this all the time, um, is, do I have to make this decision right now? And just because I can, doesn't mean I should.
Very good point. Yeah.
So it's like, just because I can make this decision right now, doesn't mean I should. If I kind of pause and then say, oh, or even I'm looking at it as a decision, as anything, like uh even making dinner.
Hmm.
That's a decision, right? And oh, well, I know my husband loves blah, 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 and I could just decide to make that for dinner. Um, Not even pausing to go, oh, just because I can make this decision doesn't mean I should. And pausing and going, he's really busy also. He's in meetings. Uh, and my need to know right now does not constitute an emergency on his part.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. You brought up a lot of interesting points, agreements that we have with each other. And sometimes we tend to want them to be married to a decision we made a long time ago, and don't you ever dare change it. And checking in with each other and being patient. All of those are useful skills, I think, in navigating some of this pattern. And what we're after is to create different patterns, right? We know we can't change another person, and yet, oh, sometimes I really want to. I really do. I think I really know what's best for them. Um, how do we navigate through that when we know we want something so different and there's such a conflict?
Um, I have so many different thoughts on this, because the first thing I really heard is that you're not focused on the relationship you have, you're focused on a relationship you want, and you want to change this for that.
Mhm.
Um, which probably could make you and your partners or friends or whomever you're in relationship with, they'll feel that from you. They'll feel that, like, it's not good enough, it has to change. um, there are many aspects of my relationship that I want to change, quote unquote. So what I'll do is I'll stop, and I'm really grateful for the relationship that I have. I stop, I pause, I take time to, like, make sure I remind myself how grateful I am for what I already have. And then if I want my husband to do something differently, but I'm not willing to do something differently, I look at the hypocrite.
Mhm.
I go, oh, okay, well, I want him because I'm just impatient and I want things to be a certain way. So that was kind of a longer answer to adding grace and compassion um, to every relationship, like, um, and the grace with yourself, like, as you change things, to really acknowledge every step you're taking. It's not going to be perfect. Like, if you're shifting your relationship, let's say here, it's a romantic relationship, and shifting it because you don't feel like certain things are happening, because Lord knows, over 13 years, I have felt, 13 plus years, like, I have felt as though there are things missing,
Mhm.
but that's a feeling and it changes. So, like, meaning, today I might not feel heard, or I might not feel loved, or but that's so momentary. But when I take a moment to go, Okay, that's right now. And then attached to it, have a conversation that's not confrontational. Like, I am not feeling heard. I am not feeling loved. It's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, I can use your support. Here's how I could feel heard. Here's how I could feel loved. Here's how, like I matter. Um, but I kind of remind myself that I probably do the same thing to my spouse in certain situations. Like if I'm really busy with
Right.
work and family, and sometimes my husband is like, he's always priority, 2 or 3. I always say somewhere in there, because I am always my first priority, which is important. Um, so he probably feels the same way. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to assume.
Right. The point that they have the same feelings that we do can be humbling,
Mhm.
can be very humbling. I know for me it is. How do you think defensiveness contributes to when we get stuck in that pattern?
That's a great question. Well, I would go to patience again,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're going to defend something, you want it now. Um, there's a character in a Willy Wonka movie that's like, I don't remember her name. I think it's Veronica Salt, where she's like, I want it and I want it now. Um, and when I see or experience or have been defensive, I've honored the fact that that's really what I'm saying. I'm just throwing a temper tantrum of like, you know, I want this, I want this now, and I really don't want you to give me any pushback about it. Just do as I say, how, when, where. Just do this, and I'll be good. Um,
I know
and
for me, sometimes too, defensiveness is I want to be right about the way I have it. I
well,
want to be right that you are wrong.
but and it's also I want to be right that um about the underlying, like that you don't see me, that you don't love me,
Right.
that you don't care about me, that like anything that's underneath that. That's why I've practiced so often and with my clients is patience. Like, do you have the patience to just pause before you really put that in the space? Because there's some things you can't take back,
Right.
and that's what usually starts to sway relationships, is like somebody said something, 10 years ago. I've done this to my husband. He said something, years ago that doesn't apply today. And I'm like, but do you remember when you said this? And I'm like, dang, that's pretty harsh. So, but defensiveness to me could be, but it's also, do I have the wherewithal to just pause? Like,
Self mastery.
just pause. Like,
Hmm.
it's okay to say to someone, you know, and not in a temperamental, like I need, to not talk to you right now. Well, that's not real helpful. But if you could, uh, if and I've tried this, I still do, I succeed sometimes and sometimes I don't, is the moment where I say, like, I hear everything you're saying, and I really want to collect my thoughts so that, what I say next honors what this is. And right now, it's not going to. And that kind of honesty usually has somebody, my husband will go, oh, okay. And there are times where he's this defensiveness. Well, no, let's talk about this now. No, we're here. Let's talk about it now or whatever. And it really takes like, okay, can we take like a 3-minute pause? Like, or even 30 seconds, so that moving forward, because defensiveness usually leads to saying something that someone will ultimately regret.
And I think as you're sharing, it's bringing to my mind, do we have a realistic expectation about what a relationship should look like in the first place? Do I compare what I have in my relationship to some other relationship and I think they've got it all together? It works perfect for them. All they have is love, happiness, and sappiness. And I'm left here with some of this conflict. So is messy really okay? And is it okay to get stuck sometimes in that rut? And why can't we just say, for me, why can't I just say, you know what? I have no clue what to say, do, or think to get past this right now. I just don't. I know you have a problem with it. I wish I could fix it for you. And somehow here we are again. So,
Well, and so in that, I was like, that brought up a few things, because who's the common denominator?
right.
It's me. It's actually not my husband. I'm the common denominator.
Yes.
And I think it's an absolute necessity to get messy,
Yes.
because we spend so much time keeping things comfortable or predictable, that sometimes that the silence in relationship starts to speak louder than the words. I would rather, have consistent conversations. Like, I schedule a lot of stuff with my husband. So I'm like, we have scheduled conversations so that there is a reduced defensiveness, because it's coming. It's not me going, we have to talk, which are like the worst words ever. I've
Right.
come to know, like, I'd like to talk to you. That to my husband is like, I just put a bomb in the room.
Yes.
And like, we go to have this conversation, and sometimes we're huge Disney fans. So I'm like, oh yeah, I just want to know when's the next time we could go to Disney. And he's like, that's it? That's all you wanted to talk? Yeah, so I've also learned how to rephrase that phrase, so that I'm not triggering him, that he did something wrong. And all the time between, I say this and the conversation, he's not going through every scenario over the past couple days that he could have made, caused some friction. But practicing the pause is not easy, but it will save a relationship. It'll save your time. And no matter what relationship, I bring this to corporate
Yeah.
all
You
the
brought up
time.
a lot of really important things, I think. You talked about honoring somebody. So our intent in the conversation about being the common denominator, about what do I really want? Am I really willing to do my part to resolve this issue? And sometimes it's hard to admit, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And that, when you get two people saying, no, I'm not willing, that's when we can fall into that trap over and over. And also it can be hard when I finally say, all right, now I'm willing. And the other person is saying, nope, not me yet. So that can be awkward.
But that awkwardness, if you allow it, is such an opportunity to reignite everything you want. Like,
Yes.
um in romantic relationships, if somebody's like, well, you know especially the long-term ones. There's, I don't know how many articles, how to spice up your love life, how's this, but there might be one, there might like legitimately like one partner going, yeah, I'm not there. So it could allow the creative side to come out, and you have to be open. You have to ask your partner, like, okay, I get it. You're closed off. We had this pattern. We've had this come up over and over and over. And I know what I'm asking. I know I'm asking you to sort of allow me to maybe hurt you again. And instead of that, could you give me the benefit of the doubt and say, I'm not going to hurt you again. Because I really want to have, such and such happen, whatever that is. It's hot, that kind of honesty with vulnerability is not easy.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be possible if there weren't these like awkward moments. And I don't know anyone, I did a lot of relationship coaching over the years. I don't know anyone that that really describes perfect moments as what connected them and released the pattern. I don't know anyone. It's the goofy things. It's that awkward moment, like most couples talk to them, the awkward moment of like once, like my husband went to kiss me once and like he's coming this way and I don't know he's gonna kiss me. I turn my head and he kissed somebody else on the cheek, or that, and everybody cracks up. That's what we talk about. And the joy, don't forget joy in breaking patterns, adding joy. Like if
Yeah.
it's a consistent pattern, who's really holding it to be consistent? Me.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what do I want to see? If I want more love, whatever that means to you, to me, more love is both of us being authentic to who we are and having that be the highest and fullest expression of who ourselves are. And if that ain't fun, if it's constantly like, oh, we have to work on this.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate that. I hate that sentence. Relationships are a lot of work.
Well, they are, but
They
it's
are.
internal
And
work.
yeah.
But it's internal work.
Yes.
It's like, I'll give you a really good, for instance, in my own life. Sometimes when my husband chews, I get nauseous.
Mm-hmm.
Just sometimes, like, who knows what's in the universe. So for a long time, I wouldn't really say something. I would just kind of like, if we were eating dinner or if we were out or whatever, I just kind of put my fork down, have conversation, because it was he's not doing anything other than chewing his food, right? Like he's not a crazy chewer. So if anybody's listening, he's not like a lip smacking, like show your food kind of person. It just, I have, but my mom says I have supersonic hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear, even with his mouth closed, the chewing, and it makes me a little nauseous. But I know it's mine, it's not his. So for a long time, I wouldn't say anything. And then I was exhausted one day. I was just exhausted. I didn't feel well to begin with. And he was chewing. And I got up and I went into another room. And he was like, what's going on? I'm like, listen, enjoy your food. I'm getting nauseous. So now here's a pattern. If my husband sees my face turn a certain way, he will actually say, oh, are you getting nauseous? And instead of making himself wrong for chewing his food, for God's sakes, he's chewing his food. it's just more like I just take myself, I go like to the other side of the room so I can't hear it directly, and we're good. So in breaking the pattern of that it was a time elapse, because at first he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'll try and chew quieter. Like, no, you're not chewing loud. It's mine.
Yeah.
Chew your food. You get to nourish yourself. Just because I went to the other end of the room, that was like a relationship saver, right? Like, but know what the pattern is and what you want to bring. So if your pattern is, okay, you're on this hamster wheel and you can't seem to get off of the hamster wheel, then do you ever bring yourself back to the times when you were falling in love with that person, or falling in like even your friendships, right? Like when you're like, oh my God, I love this person. Do you bring yourself back to that moment? And do you bring yourself back? I know I bring myself back to the moment of like, I know inevitably in a lot of my friendships that people have their own life, and sometimes we're not as close as we once were. But do I just, am I allowing everything to breathe?
I like that visual, allowing
Yeah.
everything
So
to breathe.
yeah, just in the pattern. Like there
Mhm.
are some friends that I have that they do the same thing over and over and over. I expect them to do it a different way. My expectations get in the way. And then when I go like, you know what, you're going to do you, I'm going to cheer you on. And I can just kind of go to the other side of the room because it has nothing to do like, hey, I love what you're doing, or I'm so glad that lights you up. Just because it doesn't light me up doesn't mean anything. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad that lights you up. Uh, you know, so I would say also know, always remind yourself of that beginning of why
Yeah.
you, what was that? Just a little reminder. You don't have to stay there, but if you can stay in, listen, my husband, blah, blah, or my spouse, they always, they forget me. I don't feel loved. I don't feel seen. I don't like blah, 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 blah. Like how much time are you spending reinforcing that pattern?
Exactly.
Like that's a lot of time.
hmm And seeing that is what you'll see, because that's what you expect. And
Yeah.
if you just shift the focus and say to yourself, my husband is there for me, or my spouse is there for me, and start to notice where they are there for you. There might be that one instance in 5 when they fall short, and then it's not like always, that word always, like you always do this.
Oh, I love that. Vicky, do you ever, like, I've done this before, like my husband's uh forgotten or something, just one thing, like whatever around my house, there's a joke. He likes to leave all the lights on and I go around closing them. And it's maybe that one day it was, oh, you always leave the lights on and you chew loud and you do this and you like one little thing is like an avalanche of like everything you've been holding in.
Yes.
So we stopped the avalanche is what I would say. Like one of the pro tips, pro
hmm
tip, one of the pro tips was we stopped the avalanche. It was like, you left the light on again.
Period. You don't add the kitchen sink. Yeah.
And that's hard. It's hard to not say something because a lot of, I mean, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, like I support people in finding their voice and speaking into. I support people becoming critically thinking and speaking leaders. And when it comes to relationships, to go, you have to stop the sentence right there. Like,
Yeah.
because this is my spouse. I'm not his mother. He's not my father. I'm not, you know, and just stop this. Like, you left the light on again. Is it important to you? Because the thing is, I can't make what's important to me important to him.
Right.
But I can say this is really important to me that we turn the light off. And every time I see it, it makes me think all this stuff, like you don't listen to me and you don't care about me. And I know how ridiculous that sounds, but it's true. As simple as like leaving the light on. And when you say it that way, it's very different than saying this, like, you always leave the light on. You're such a blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, insensitive blob. And I
Right.
think it's important that you commented too, that it is often those little things, and it's those little things that will pile up and then let fly with you always, and add the kitchen sink. So if we go deeper into these, we're circling around talking about being frustrated, being angry, being impatient. What kind of physical costs do I pay when I don't check myself, when I just give in and stay stuck and think, well, I'm right, and I'm going to dig in my heels and I'm going to stay angry. We talk about cortisol and adrenaline and how they impact our health. It seems like it would be a direct connection to think, oh, I'm having an unreasonable reaction. What is this doing to me? And is it what I want to happen to me? But no, we don't, do we?
No, but I think I removed the judgment of myself if I'm having an unreasonable reaction. That's a judgment.
You're right.
And I'm just having a reaction.
I like it.
Like I'm having a reaction. And think about I know when I'm really angry. There were you talked about cortisol, but also there's oxytocin and dopamine and serotonin, and all of those things come from physical touch, being told how loved you are, and having like and scent, especially. So scent, being touched. So like oxytocin, a hug will increase your oxytocin. Well, if I'm really mad, my husband's really good at this. Like, he'll come over and he'll put his hand on my shoulder and I'll like move. Like, don't you try and touch me now. Like, I'm pissed off. Meanwhile, it's because that internal thing, I'm angry. But see, that's the thing. I'm angry. He's not.
Right.
And then that might even make me angry that he's not hangry. And I noticed I just said hangry and not angry. And the funny part is, not anybody listening or watching would know that I was having a snack right before we started this. I'm not hangry, but that's like, see how when you can dispense something with laughter,
Yes.
that I'm tying that to that is like, when you laugh, when you can look at yourself and go, okay, he's not making me angry. I'm angry. Own it. If you're going to be angry, be angry. Like I've said, like, listen, I'm angry. I can't even stand the fact that I'm like breathing too loud right now. It has nothing to do with you. Like, so I'm going to experience this. And like, I love you. Go do something fun. Like, it's okay, be angry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated, and it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to do all of that. It's when it's not effective. After a
Right.
while, how long do you, like in our house, it's okay, how long do you need? And if the answer is like, I don't know, like, I don't know how long I need to be angry. I'm mad. Like, you want me to put a time limit? Now you're going to make me angrier. But probably, oh, like, nope. You know what? Like, give yourself space to breathe.
Yeah. It sounds like what you're really describing, what I'm hearing is let each other be who you really are. You said it earlier. Sometimes that's being your best self, and sometimes it's being your messiest self. And what valuable relationships those are when you can be both. And it works. And somehow the days string together and they keep stringing together. So maybe part of it is trying to fine tune this relationship so it just never has any ripples. And that's just not realistic.
And it's not fun.
No.
It's really not. I was just thinking when you were speaking, I was like, a lot of people that I've coached for relationships, what they want, you know, those perfect jeans you have, like you've had them for years and you put them on, they always fit perfect and they're comfortable. Most people expect to have that pair of jeans in like 12 minutes. And even those of us who have a long-term relationship, like we want to be able to put like, okay, we're pretty comfortable in our relationship. But you know, maybe we want our butt to look better kind of thing.
Right.
And it's like, but these are still your favorite pair of jeans.
Yeah.
And that's what's important, is to allow the growth. And to allow yourself the freedom to grow and not to be stuck in a time and space of like who I was in my 20s was completely different as the woman I was in my 30s, who is completely different than the woman I am in my 40s. And I've evolved that woman. So if my husband, who we met when I was in my 30s, he was in his 40s, if he expected me to be her, oh my goodness. like, and there are some things that'll stay the same. Maybe the tone of my voice.
Right. Right.
But there are so much that changes. So the getting comfortable with change,
Yeah.
like things are going to change. Things are going to be difficult. Things are going to, you know, be a challenge. Things are going to be extraordinary. I cling to with my relationship as like my perfect average day. Not the extraordinary vacations, like, because then I would probably, or the extraordinary stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like if you
Right.
have a big purchase or a big vacation, or, you know, maybe like you get each other extravagant gifts. If I clung to that, I would, me personally, I know I would feel like it would be all work for this short term gift or whatever it is, versus every day, like through a pandemic, many people we know separated, got divorced. And here we're in the same house, making it work. We're laughing, high-fiving. You know, there's still struggles, but building the best pattern you can build is the success of yesterday. So like what worked yesterday? And let's start there. That's the, you know, what is it? Today's ceiling is tomorrow's floor.
I like that.
So, okay, what worked yesterday? And, you know, maybe it was patience. Okay, that's where we're starting today. And so that I'm in today.
Mhm.
So that when I go or he comes, and Lord knows we've been in meetings and Zooms for, what is it, 78 years now. we're all consistently on this stuff this past
Yes.
year and a half. Like, hi, how are you? Hey, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do for you today? Those are probably the two most powerful questions in my house that are asked every single day. Like, hey, how are you? You know, and if he's like, oh, whatever, and it's a few days in a row, I'm not like, oh, you're always complaining. Like, oh, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. Is there anything I can do for you? Because then I'm not dismissing, because that's another pattern, is dismissing someone else's, it's a pattern, like their
Right.
feelings. So I'm just like, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. Is there anything I can do to make it better? Excuse me, to make it better. And a lot of times, even with your friends, have you ever had that? Like, if they're just like, Vicky, I'm sorry. Is there anything I could do to make it better? And you're like, you already have.
Yes.
And you're like, but I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, but you did. I felt heard. And when
Hmm.
I feel heard, I feel loved. So,
And I think it's the important too, what you're pointing out is that you're not trying to fix, we're not trying to fix. We're not saying, well, you're doing it wrong because you're not having a good day. We're just saying, I'm sorry that you're having that experience, then what can I do? If anything, and
yeah,
leaving it
well,
at that.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it also releases you from the guilt, blame, and shame
Yes.
that you're
Yes.
causing. Meanwhile,
Yes. It puts the ownership back on the other person, and they either can say, yes, you could do this, and that would really help. Or nope, I'm sorry, I got to work through this. I'm just in a funk, whatever. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it so much. And so many of my clients too have struggles in this relationship. And there are a time, you and I have both seen some really tough relationships be able to turn the corner and come back around.
sure
But
have.
there may be a time when even coaching doesn't help that.
Mhm.
And then we advocate, get help, because
Yeah.
there are some times when there's such a pattern of stuckness and such unwillingness that a person needs to step back and work on their willingness first.
Oh, listen, I am one of the first people to tell my clients that therapy with coaching gives you exponential results
Yes.
because you can address uh, like it's a more full-rounded approach. And many coaches like yourself, we just kind of know, and myself, we know, like, listen, here's what I can do coaching.
Hmm.
Here's what a therapist can do. And if, you know, go ahead and get a couple of weeks of a therapist under your belt and let's come back to coaching.
Yeah.
Because I see the willingness, like, okay, here it is. Yeah, listen, I have a therapist.
Hmm.
And I say it's the safest place to say all the crap I wouldn't say to my husband,
Yes.
right? Like he never has to hear it.
Right.
I get it out of my system, like, because sometimes, like, I work in transformation, and I know a lot of people have an idea, an expectation that they're, you know, always going to be open and authentic, and, you know, and then somebody cuts them off in traffic.
Right.
And it's like, you bleep, bleep, bleep. Like, that doesn't mean you're not transformed.
Yeah.
It's, but knowing your limit. So breaking the pattern starts with me.
Yes.
So when we started this together, breaking that pattern, it's me. I can't, if I want the pattern broken, it doesn't mean that my husband does. So if I make small incremental positive changes, he will come. But if I go like this, so today we're gonna go work out 3 hours together, then we're, you know, this, That might be a little bit much, but if that's my goal, to have a healthy partnership, both physically, emotionally, financially, whatever it is, I start with the goal and then I back it all the way up to where are we now?
Right.
Where am I now? And one small incremental change, what, like each one building, right? Today's ceilings, tomorrow's floor. So what do we do? What do we do tomorrow? Well, it's not what do we do? It's who am I becoming? Who am I today that this change, like this incremental change that has positive, joyful result? Because that's how really
Mhm.
positive reinforcement, right? Have you ever really gotten anything great by beating some yourself or anybody else up?
Nope.
Right. So small, but that's the pattern breaker right there, is what one small thing, what's one small thing I can do today to have this happen? Um, and I wouldn't say even change, like I'm not changing myself. It's
Right.
who am I becoming? Because there's probably something in that pattern that you've realized that you've outgrown that person.
Hmm.
You've outgrown that person, not your spouse, you.
You.
I've outgrown me.
Hmm.
And I'm being held, like, listen, if I want a quick reality check, I visit my family.
Hmm.
I'm almost 47 years old, and I promise you, my uncle will look at me and talk to me like I was 5. Oh, remember when you were 5 and you did the Lord, I don't remember what I had for breakfast, let alone when I was 5 and I dreamed of being an astronaut and what would I was an astronaut and a veterinarian.
Oh,
I
yes.
wanted to take care of animals in space, y'all. But so when I want a quick reality check of that, I just call my family that's known me a really long time and go, I've outgrown her.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's really important. You've offered a lot of really good tips along the way, and I really appreciate that. Is there any other tips you want to share?
Yeah, don't forget to, yes, journaling.
Yes.
For those people who don't love journaling, I'm one of them. It doesn't have to be some long drawn out process. But I would say for those people that are more like me, where I don't, once or twice a week, I might spend extended time journaling, have bullet points. If you have one grievance, limit your grievance in your journal. Today, my husband pissed me off, blah, blah, blah. But then have at least 5 things as to what you're grateful for with
Mm,
him,
I like that.
because it's starting to switch the pattern of going down the landslide of negative thoughts. So if it's like, you know, today he pissed me off or he didn't turn the light off again, but and then the thing, I'm so grateful he loves me the way he does. He always tells me I'm grateful. He tells me he loves me. I'm grateful he brings me flowers because he wants to make sure my spaces are beautiful. I'm grateful that uh, he gives me the space to be me. Like, then I start to like, okay, I can shift out of it. So that's a powerful tool. So
Very powerful.
yeah.
Yes. And it's a small thing that you can do based on my show, Tiny
Most
Changes, Big Shift. And you had a lot of small
exactly.
steps that you could take. And they
Yeah,
are all small. It's the small things that drive us crazy, and it's the small things that can keep us from that edge.
it is.
Yeah. Do you have any services or programs you like to promote? How does our audience find you?
On social media, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. You can find me Alexis Mitchell. I'm a transformational coach, which basically means I help I help you become the best version of you, not
Yes.
my version of the best version of you. I do group coaching, that's one of the things. I don't know that I have a program actually coming up until October or November. So, but if somebody's interested in coaching, they can reach out,
You have a
and
website?
they have access to you. I do, but I do. What is my? It's www.alexismitchell.com. No, it's the Alexis Mitchell. I don't know, because I've used
Different
word
ones?
of mouth, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And that site is being rebuilt.
Okay.
No, it's not alexismitchell.com. It's something. Oh, it's AEM. I don't know. My husband will tell me. I'll
Yeah,
attend.
yeah. People can reach out to me. I know how to find you.
Yeah. And if they're reaching out to you, they have access to one of the best coaches I know.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
listen, if coaching calls them, you're one of the best coaches I know.
thank you, Dana. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing with us. And for my audience, if you enjoyed the show, please like and leave a review. I love to get emails from you, so email me at info@vickydon.com. Let me know your thoughts, what you're struggling with, what matters to you, because I really want to provide information that impacts your life. And as I say goodbye, remember, you create your beautiful life one moment, one step at a time. Thank you.